Becoming a mom brings lots of emotions, as well as unexpected experiences, from the high highs of witnessing your children flourish and grow to the low lows and feelings of shame, guilt, and remorse for the life we once had prior to having kids. The feelings and experiences of motherhood are wild, and I'm here to talk about the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. Hey, it's Jenny Swanson, your host of Chaos and Coffee Motherhood Unfiltered. I am so grateful you're here. Let's get into it. According to Brene Brown, we are hardwired for connection, and without it, we suffer. I read that book prior to having kids, and then just recently reread it since having kids, and dear God, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. There has been this deep, longing, yearning feeling that I really hadn't been able to put a name to or fully describe the feeling since having my first Edith in October of 2020. And reading that line or that little blip alone was enough to be like, that's what I've been feeling. Like, I've been feeling the sense of suffering, the sense of I'm missing something. And all along, it's just a deeper sense of connection. And I had no idea. I didn't know how to vocalize it. I feel like it's not talked about enough. I feel like there are so many things being moms that are just not talked about. Women in general are just so dismissed. And it is the year 2023, damn it, the year of the Barbie movie. Our feelings should be heard. They should be acknowledged. They should be validated. Our physical health, our mental health, all the above, it should be given more attention to. And yet here we are for so many of us. I know my feelings might not be the same across the board for all, but I know there's, quite a few that feel mutually the same for me, or as me. Mom brain, guys, I'm gonna stumble through it. And honestly, tonight, just bear with me, and I hope you enjoy this session. Session, podcast episode, there's going to be a whole bunch of blips, and I'm just kind of decided to say, fuck it. This is the last time I'm recording this, and this is what we get. I don't know how to edit, and I'm just going to roll with the punches. I'm learning as I go. So, for this episode, I just so deeply want to talk about this sense of connection that I feel like I was so desperately seeking, yet could not fully validate it because I didn't know exactly what I was looking for. I had a feeling, I had a notion, but it just wasn't I just really couldn't fully expand on it. And putting words to how this feeling was, I couldn't do it. And so reading that one simple line that we're hardwired for connection and without it we suffer, it was like the missing puzzle piece. All of a sudden, the aha moment. And it leads me into what I so deeply want to talk about, because I constantly have heard since growing up that becoming a mom and raising a family takes a village, and that village will show up for you once you become a mom. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking listening to that Delulu statement, but it was so inaccurate. I saw the most beautiful village, and I'm sure my mom could say differently, or some of the surrounding family members, but I so beautifully got to witness a village, and no village is perfect by any means. But what my notion of a village was versus what showed up is wildly different. Growing up, I saw my grandma, the matriarch of my family, put together these massive Sunday dinners, and she would entertain our family. If we had friends that we wanted to bring, the more the merrier. She was all about it. And I just had such a deep, close bond with her that, truthfully, I think she was a big part of what my idea of a village looked like. And she died in 2015, a few months before I got married. And I knew that would rock my core. I just didn't realize how much it impacted so many other conceptions of my values, of what my family life would look like when I had one, just so many different things. And it also didn't help that I had Edith in 2020, specifically October. I mean, granted, it was a little later in the pandemic, so I could have Vince by my side, but that notion of a village during a pandemic, you're not really gonna get. And also, my family they did everything great. Like, my parents and my sister were like ready and willing to help with anything. Yet so many things were going on, and I looked around and I felt like I was lacking something, this sense of village, but I didn't quite know that at the time. And they were there. It's just my notion of what I was expecting was not from them. Um, just from, I guess, a bigger sense of connection and a bigger sense of community. I think I was looking for more mom friends to come sympathize, offer any sort of support. And I didn't really have that because I don't really have a ton of mom friends, or I didn't at the time. So my getting kind of into the backstory of it, my mom was one of 6, my dad was one of 7. I grew up close to my mom's family. My dad's family kind of lives scattered across the Midwest. And I don't know how my grandma did it, to be honest. Like, that woman was superwoman. She was the matriarch, like I've said, in my family, and she was a powerhouse. She worked as a peds nurse supervisor at night, and then during the day, she took care of her kids. She took care of the house while my grandpa was off working. How I will never fully understand how she did it, and I am ever so grateful to have had her be one of my role models, because she did so much with not a little in return, or not a lot in return. And the amount of love that she radiated out was just so abundant. There was always enough and more to go around. And she was the type of person, heavily Italian. You'd walk in her house, and I hope to God you hadn't eaten before you walked in, because if you showed up on a full stomach, you were going to get hounded until you said, yes, I will eat whatever you're willing to feed me. That was just how the woman showed you love, amongst other things. But like food, if you really wanted to know how much she loved you, she was going to give you all the food. And I am so grateful for that. She showed me so many beautiful things and so many great things to be so grateful for. And the memories I had are like phenomenal. And she was a huge part of that village because she was there for so many. She gave so many advice. She was such a support to so many, and it was just so beautiful to see. And so when I became a mom, I think I specifically was looking for her in that village, but also community, and more or less a community of moms. Because I did get the support, like I said, of my mom, dad, sister, and husband. Just not necessarily from the others that I think I had this notion that I might get from. Don't know where they were planning on showing up. My grandma popping out of the grave. I'm not quite sure, honestly. But she was monumental, and because she was such an important role model in my life, my oldest daughter Edith, is actually named after her. And that brings me into today. We are coming almost to a close. We're in October of 2023, and the year of the Barbie movie, the year of, I don't know, what I would have thought would be progression and movement forward for women. My daughter's being born with more rights than in the past, but instead today they stand to lose quite a bit of body autonomy rights, and it's just terrifying. It's terrifying. And I think that in itself, the political climate that they were born into and that we're currently sitting in, is also taking a toll on this sense of a village. Yeah, I definitely think so. Actually, as I'm saying that, it hadn't really occurred to me until I'm talking about it, but I could feel a sense of, I want to cry. I want so much for my kids, and I feel like I so desperately may not be able to give that to them where I'm at, especially in this day and age, right now, right here. And I was thinking my great grandparents got aboard a ship and came to America to better their lives, but also their families. And here I am. I'm living in Southern California, so I'm so grateful for where I live. I would not want to live anywhere else in the world. Oh, I mean in the US. Um, but I also look at other countries like Europe and I'm like, it's safer. The quality of education, no hate to teachers. That's going to be a side comment. It is just a systemic issue in our country, and funding just continues to get cut, and or can like politicians continue to want to cut spending. Teachers need to be paid more. We need to start teaching our kids differently. It's not working when you look at where we rank as a country with education versus where other countries rank. Like we're not doing it right. Um we should start by giving teachers a living wage, for God's sakes. I mean, they do so much and we ask so much from them. But end rant. What I'm trying to say is there is such a notion today of there are so many pressures of what we should be doing as parents, and there always has been, but I feel like it's even more scrutinized today. And moms feel the brunt of it. I know I feel the brunt of it. And then being a woman, being the main provider, the default caregiver, the default parent. And I mean, I guess I'm not the main, I guess this is kind of a skewed idea, but I'm not the main provider when it comes to like bringing in money. I'm a stay-at-home parent, but I do a lot of things. I take away all of the emotional and physical labor around the kids, usually a lot of the time. And I just want what's best for them. And I want this sense of village and community to raise me up. And I hadn't found that until I really have been thinking about it until maybe the last year or so. I moved. So at the end of July, or no, January of 2021, 2022. Y'all, my timeline, I'm tired. At the end of January 2022, my husband, Edith, and I picked up, and our dog Noodles picked up, and we moved 2,000 miles away from home. We moved from Illinois back to San Diego, California, and I get chills thinking about it. I put on a brave face, I put on an excited face, but every ounce of community and family that I had, I left 2,000 miles away. Granted, we did live here. Vince and I did live here in 2019, and I did make some friends. I made some amazing friends. They didn't necessarily have kids, and I wasn't sure how that was going to feel. So they were, or in the stage that I was in. And I just wasn't quite sure how that was going to work out. And since everything has been phenomenal, those fears were just fears. They didn't go into fruition. But I just think about that time was so crucial for me, and we got here, we got settled in. It took me a month, and then the very next month in March of, well, technically not, I guess the very next month, but in March of 2022, I had my daughter Evie. And wow, I was craving that sense of community. I knew I had to get out of the house. And so I had joined all of these mom groups prior to moving. And then once I moved, and someone luckily happened to have posted, if you're looking for mom friends, join this app called Peanut. Thank God. I joined it. I giggled a little because it is literally essentially like a Tinder for finding mom friends. You swipe up if you're interested in meeting them and talking. You swipe down if you're like, another time. And you create this profile based on your interests, what you're looking for from the app, whether to just make mom friends for yourself, make friends for your kids, host play dates, make virtual friends, all the above. It's so beautiful. And I will forever and always be grateful for that app because it is what got me to finding my village. if this is one thing I've learned and one thing I've been able to reflect on since reading Daring Greatly, that sense of connection that I so deeply desired, I found. And I found it through not the most conventional. I guess in 2023 it is conventional. I mean, I met my husband online. It's pretty common nowadays to meet your significant other online, but it's just the idea that things don't have to look conventional or traditional anymore. It's what you make of it. Your village could look like a whole host of friends that are scattered across the world, and that's okay. It's what works for you. You have to find what works for you. And I am so grateful for Peanut in that aspect, because the first mom I met, Ramona, shout out, if you're listening, I am so grateful for you. She literally is the one that allowed me to realize, like, okay, I'm going to be okay here. I'm going to be able to make it. It's going to be fine. Because those mom groups are a little intimidating. I am usually pretty active, like in a social setting, like a physical social setting, but when it comes to a social media presence, I'm a lurker. I'll lurk the comments. I might like one. If you're going to see me comment on something, I must be really passionate about it, or like it's a rare occasion. I love social media. I love TikTok, yet I don't usually interact. I like to lurk and sit in the shadows. And so Peanut allowed me to make friends, get out, and I made my village. I am so grateful to that app, because I have since made so many amazing friends that I am so grateful to call my friends, and then also have their children call my kids friends. That wouldn't have been possible without it. I will say I am now an ambassador. I will share a link if you're interested. I just shared so many times, like, oh, you're having trouble finding mom friends, or what have you, joined Peanut. Like, I didn't realize I could join and be an ambassador for something I was already doing. It really strongly changed my life for the better, and I'm so grateful for that. Now, because of that, Ramona and I host monthly walks with our families, because dads need dad friends too. I mean, sure, you can do mom walks. Those are great. Been there, and they're great. But also dads sometimes need dad friends. And so we started doing family walks, which has been great. Once a month. And I'm a life coach by trade. I started doing a self-development book club once a month. And when I say book club, I mean you can do the bare minimum. You don't even have to read the book. If you're interested and you want that sense of community, come, show up. We may not be actually talking about the book, or we'll sprinkle things about the book. The idea is you have a sense of community and a sense of safety to come to. And I love that. We've also started doing mom's night outs, and I'm so grateful for that as well, because sometimes you just need a break. I don't understand how we are asked so much of ourselves during this phase of life, yet we're not supported fully. You might have a wonderful, supportive husband, and your I don't know, family might be very supportive as well. Yet community, like at least where we're at, I mean, in so many other countries, it feels like women are more supported than we are, and there's a lot more to gain in the sense of being understood, and in the sense of being supported and uplifted. Not so much here. We're doing it by ourselves, or so it feels, and that's really hard. There are so many instances where I wish I would have felt seen, validated, and heard. One being when I had my C-section with Edith. They did the nurse couldn't get it, the nurse anesthetist couldn't get it, so she ended up getting the anesthesiologist. He couldn't get it. They're talking behind my back about why is this not working. And I stopped counting after like the 7th time. Finally, they get it. The C-section starts. And I was told after my OB had made the initial incision, she was like, you're going to feel a lot of pressure. Instead of pressure, I felt a flood of pain. I literally felt everything. And I kept telling the nurse anesthetist and the anesthesiologist who were right behind me, I was like, I feel everything. And they're like, no, that's just pressure. And I'm like, no, I'm in pain. And I'm starting to panic, and I'm starting to I don't think I screamed. And I don't know how. I just was, and I didn't cry because I was just so shocked at the sheer amount of pain, and then having to like reiterate, I feel everything. Um, and luckily my OB listened. I think my blood pressure was starting to get high. She was like, put her out, put her out. And even though I was out, I still remember feeling pain. They gave me ketamine and I think fentanyl. And I was literally in this like hazy, beautiful fall, like sunflower cornfield. Um, and remember thinking, wow, I just had a baby. This is really painful. Um, I can't wait to hold her. And then when I came to, it was like my OB apologized, but it's like, just listen to me the first time. I'm telling you, I feel pain. And this isn't the first time this has happened, but it's just, I want to feel seen. I want to be heard. I want to be supported. Like, I really struggled with that. And luckily, I had a wonderful OB and a great anesthesiologist when I had EV. Especially, I was so concerned about that moving literally at the very end of my pregnancy and seeing a brand new OB that I was not familiar with at all. Um, as well as coming to a hospital that I'm like, are they going to take me seriously? And luckily, the anesthesiologist was like the most badass person. I'm so grateful he listened. He was like, you're in good hands. I promise we'll be good. Um, just an experience like that, it's so invalidating, and it leaves you feeling powerless in a state where you should feel powerful. You just had a baby. You just had this beautiful blessing, and instead there's so many emotions. Other things that I feel like we should be supported with here. I have heard so much after PT, or after I had Edith, I had a lot of lower back pain, pelvic floor issues. I didn't actually find out about pelvic floor therapy from my OB. TikTok did. And I am so grateful I was able to call and just get right in and didn't need a referral, because who knows how long that would have taken. And then as I'm talking to the women's health PT that I was seeing, she was saying in other countries, I think it was Canada specifically, she had mentioned, it's typical after a woman gives birth, no matter how she gives birth, to have pelvic floor therapy. And my jaw just dropped. It's those things where it's like, it takes a village. Our village is multi-layered. And that sense of community, that sense of support, it's not fully there. Even you have to, and that's what I'm trying to get at. You have to make it what you can for you in the now and as best as possible, because you deserve it and you owe it to yourself. It's the least, unfortunately, you can do for yourself. And it shouldn't have to be that way, especially again in the year 2023. However, you deserve connection. You deserve the things that you need. You deserve the bare necessities and more. So often, being a mom is hard enough. That guilt, that shame, that internal dialogue that we have, it's there. And then on top of it, to have no surrounding support, whether it be friends, family, community, the village that we so might seek or desire and need. And we deserve it. We absolutely deserve it. And if you have that and you feel like you have that support, you are doing amazing, and that's great. We should not have to advocate and do all of these things for ourselves and then be expected to raise children. And unfortunately, for some, that's just how it is. That was how it was for me. And some of it I chose. I agreed to move out here to Southern California, but I also didn't feel fully supported in Illinois either. It's one of those things where it's a work in progress, and if we don't start talking about it, kind of like what Brene Brown's work is, which is being vulnerable. And that's why I'm creating this podcast. I want to talk about all the things. I want to share how I'm feeling. I want to share my experience. I know I'm not alone. And the thing is, I've felt alone many a times from this. After I had Evie, I was losing a whole bunch of hair right here. And granted, I lost a whole bunch of hair with Edith, but not to this extent. I emailed my OB's nurse practitioner and I was like, hey, I'm just recovering from COVID. I know I'm 3 months postpartum. I know this is when the time that a lot of hair starts to fall out, but also I have a history of hypothyroidism and it has not been checked ever since having Evie. Should I be concerned? And she was like, no, it's normal for postpartum. Like completely just not chalked it up to postpartum hair loss. And I should have pushed further. I was literally balding in places. I didn't send a picture. I thought, by listing the fact that it was COVID and the fact that I had a history of hypothyroidism, which they have in their charts, I thought that would be enough. And sure, I could have pushed further, but I was so underwhelmed and so depleted in the sense that here I am, I should be pushing back again. I should have to advocate further when that was my sense of advocation for myself. Wild. Absolutely wild. So I had to establish with another doctor after the fact anyways. I mentioned to him kind of the same thing that's going on and he's like, yeah, we'll do your labs in 3 months. What? Luckily, I had another doctor that I see. I do labs wherever I live, and then I do a phone conversation with her. Phenomenal. And I was like, hey, I know you really typically don't want to see me or other moms until after they're done breastfeeding. However, this is what's going on. Would you be willing to see me? And if I end up having something and you don't feel comfortable treating it, we can address that. I'm totally fine with that. I need answers and I'm not going to get them soon enough. She was totally chill about it. I'm so grateful for her saying yes. And turns out my thyroid had been the worst it's ever been. I hadn't been on meds in years. And it's just one of those things where, again, the system failed. Like, I almost feel like, at least this is my own experience, and I've had this feeling come up twice. When I had both of my girls, I had this feeling. They take such good care of you. You're like precious cargo when you're pregnant. Everything, and don't get me wrong, you are, because you're carrying precious cargo, but then that all gets overlooked and all of the attention goes on to the baby after you have them. Love my girls, and the attention should be on them just as much as it should be on me and my health too. So many things are so jacked up and it's like, come on, we could do so much better. Where's that village? Where is that sense of advocacy? Like, we deserve it. We are producing the future of the world. And is that all that we're looked upon for, is what our bodies can do and no longer what we can do for society? There should be more. Just a thought, just a rant. And to circle back, if you don't have a village and you need one, you deserve it. You owe it to yourself. And work on creating the village that works for you. It doesn't have to look like my village. It doesn't have to look like your friend's village. It doesn't have to look like, the village that I knew growing up. It's what you need now and what can work for you. Maybe your sense of community isn't there. What can you do about the community, or what can you do about the friendships and the people you have around you right now? And if you don't have that, how can you make that sense of community? How can you make that village? I'm still working on my village and forever and always probably will be. And maybe that's just part of life. However, I owe it to myself to continue to do that, because I should never second guess how I feel and my health when I feel deeply that something is wrong. I will always probably have to double advocate for myself just based off of how often this unfortunately happens. And I need to learn to have better boundaries about that. If I think something's wrong, I need to just continue to push for it. Yet the friends that I have and the support that I have make me feel more grounded in my decisions, make me feel like if I had something going on and I really wanted to talk it out and just bounce off ideas, are you going through this? Have you gone through this? I have those sense of friends. I have that sense of connection that I don't feel like I fully had before. You are amazing. You deserve the world. Moms literally bust their asses and literally give part of their physical body to create babies. Like, it's so beautiful, kind of terrifying, and at the same time, very chaotic all in one. And we owe it to ourselves, if no one else is going to step up to the plate, at least here, to give ourselves what we need. I know it's one more burden when one more thing I'm asking, but this is a big ask that will help you overall. I think I said ass. I meant ask. I don't know how it came out. Again, tired. I know being a parent, and especially being a mom, you already have a lot on your plate. And the point I'm trying to drive home is if you're looking for something and you're missing in it, feels like that sense of community, that sense of support, things will get better when you find what works for you and you find that for yourself. I am able to handle so much more because I have that here. And I'm so, so grateful. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm forever grateful. And tune in next week.